Music. To some, it is just another sound, just a noise to fill up the background of life. But to others, it is so much more than that. Music influences the soul. It has the ability to express things, even 1,000 words cannot describe. But when you close your eyes and listen, truly listen, the mind starts to resonate with the sound. Music amplifies the emotions we feel. It helps us to overcome the obstacles in life. Music engraves those moments into our hearts. But have you ever stopped and wondered, what does it look like? Well, we did, and what we found might astound you. But first, here's how we did it. So, how does it work? That's a good question. So, we'll start with an audio file and implement it in our script, which in our case is a song, which can be of any format or length. And yes, and thanks to you, Pink Floyd, even your songs of 30 minutes can be implemented. The song has 2 audio channels, but to make it a bit easier for ourselves, we'll take the mono version of the song. The picture we eventually try to create is essentially a matrix with RGB values, but since we want to take the matrix of the entire song, we have to split up the song in several segments. These segments depend on the shift over which the DFT is taken, which is like a moving average, the signal length and the sampling rate. From there, the FFT is used to compute the DFT of all individual segments. The DFT is then divided into low, mid and high tones. Respectively of each, the mean is taken and then divided into the red, green and blue values into the matrix entry. Now a normalization is done over all the values in the array with respect to the maximum in the array. We now have 3 normalized RGB arrays which still need to be morphed into a square matrix. For this, the floor of the square root is taken and the array is shortened by the square of these values. This assures a square fit. The arrays are now reshaped into square matrices and transposed. Transposing is purely aesthetic, but now all the red, green and blue values are in one picture combined and are shown in the script. But be warned, since we're working in the realm of math and art, certain liberties were taken in certain decisions. So that was the explanation. So cue the music and let the finale begin.
Hi, and welcome to our presentation for Signals and Systems. My name is Carl with Anne and Tom. Our project was to clean old comic photos. Comics are an important part of many people's childhood. However, old comics may have unwanted noise due to wear or poor print quality. For example, these 3 photos all have some type of noise within them. Our motivation for doing this project is to rejuvenate old comics by making them more appealing. We do this by reducing the noise to make them higher quality. Moreover, we want this process to be quick and efficient, such that it can be done for hundreds of comics, as conventional solutions such as photoshopping or image correcting can take a lot of time. Our vision is to encourage people to read and remember old comics to ensure they remain part of our history. So the question is, how do we clean a photo via MATLAB? Well, using the fast Fourier transform, we're able to calculate the amplitudes. From this, we're able to spot the noisy areas and remove them. After which, we're able to use the reverse fast Fourier transform to get improved image. However, this process only allows one color at a time, therefore at the end, we'll add the colors back together. We'll now go through this process in more detail, and for now, we will use a black and white example to showcase our process. Using the fast Fourier transform and then calculating the amplitudes, we're able to get the plot on the right. But what does this plot show? Well, this plot shows the noise of an image. In the middle, shown by the curly bracket, is crucial information for the photo, without which it becomes extremely blurry. However, the bright areas, shown by the arrows, are unwanted noise that we wish to remove. Initially, we thought it was possible to do this manually, but when looking at other images such as this one, we saw it was not. As you can see in this one, bright spots are difficult to spot, and to isolate them all would be time-consuming and inaccurate. Therefore, we decided to automate this via MATLAB. Initially, we struggled a lot, but finally came to the following solution. We wanted to remove all the bright areas while keeping the crucial middle area. We did this by storing a number of rows from the center of the main area and storing them in an empty array. We then found the highest amplitudes and removed a given percentage of these. Altogether, this removed the noisy rows. The amount of rows from the middle and the percentage of rows removed are a manual input. We then added the clean data with the saved data from the middle area, and the impact can be seen here. As you can see, the middle area is completely intact, while the outside areas have rows removed, as showcased by the black rows. And using the inverse fast Fourier transform, we can see that a clean gray photo has been made. Now we must do this for each primary color. For this, we simply repeat the process 3 times for each color, and after the inverse fast Fourier transform of each color, we add them together. This is a result with the initial photos. As you can see, the lines of the noise from this has been gone and smoothed out. And also here, although it's more difficult to tell due to the small image. To improve this project, as is clearly not perfect, we will focus on the automation of rows removed and automating the amount of the middle area kept. This will give more detailed and better quality results. We hope that improving these images will allow future generations to enjoy comics as
Beste reizigers, de sprinter naar Utrecht-Overvecht 17:48 vertrekt spoor 2.
Well, now that you've been introduced to the problem, let's see how we can solve it. Most modern-day headsets have a feature called active noise cancellation. These headsets have microphones that cancel out the sound around the user by using anti-phased sound waves. Most of these headsets also have a feature called pass-through, which does exactly what it says. It passes through all the sound from around the user. We can actually use this function to solve our problem. How are we going to do that? We're going to do that with a discrete Fourier transform, but before we can use this, we need some audio samples. We made 4 different ones. One with background noise, the ding dong dong of the NS announcement, and then the announcement itself. Then we also imported the 3 separate sounds, so the announcement, the ding dong dong, and the background noise. Also, we looked at the sample size of these audio files. After these are imported, we can do a fast Fourier transform, which is a feature in MATLAB. We can use this to then plot the fast Fourier transform. We can see that in the frequency domain, the combined audio file looks somewhat like this. When we look at the announcement, it represents the same cardinal figure of the mixed ones, but it is way less high, as you can see. Here the max peak is around 2250, and here the max peak is above 10,000. This is explained when we look at the ding dong dong, as we can see here a peak of almost 10,000. Then when you look at the background noise, you also see very high peaks, but they're all very close to 0 or to 2 pi. Now, how can we use this to recognize the ding-dong-dongs? Well, first we're going to say we're going to look at every second of our sample. But not only at every second, but also at every previous 2 seconds. And why are we doing this? So that when, for example, you have a sample at the edge of a ding-dong, that also the previous 2 seconds are analyzed for in case you just barely skipped over one. So this problem of misalignment basically is tackled by also looking at the previous 2 seconds. Then we made 3 conditions. 3 conditions to test if a ding, a dong, and a dong are there. Then we use a for loop to constantly check if these ding, dong, dongs are recognized. First we have a start interval, a end of the interval, and then we can check it. So what do these intervals mean? When we go back to the frequency domain of the ding dong dong, we see 3 main peaks. These intervals make sure that if there is a peak around the location, that it is really a peak and not a very loud sound. Otherwise, all loud sounds would get passed through, and that is certainly not what we want. Also, we made success barriers, meaning that it needs to be above a substantial barrier before it gets recognized. Then in the for loop we check if condition 1 is true, condition 2 is true, and condition 3 is true, and only if all 3 are true, then the audio could pass through for about 28 seconds, as this is the average length of NS announcements. Eventually we also say that all 3 conditions are false, so this process can start over again. This way we successfully recognize the ding-dong-dongs by also looking at the previous seconds, like I said. We exclude any loud sounds just to be passed through because we used these intervals. And we said that it plays 28 seconds and then we can start again. Thank you.
Because you know I'm...
Have you ever been to a party with very little bass in the music? Well, with this new bass amplifier you never have to worry about that problem again. But how does it work? A song file is uploaded to the MATLAB code. Using the FFT function, it is converted to a Fourier series in the frequency domain. From this series, a range of low frequencies is removed and used to create a new time domain graph. These frequencies fit within the range of bass sounds, which is roughly 20 to 250 Hz. Once turned into a time graph, the amplitude of the extracted audio is changed to either increase or decrease the bass noise. Finally, the new bass audio is imposed with the time graph of the original file with no bass in it. This new audio file is then downloaded to your computer to play. By using this technology, songs can be changed from the original to ones with less bass or to ones with even more bass. Naturally, this code can also be applied to a range of frequencies, so professional artists can use this to test how changing audio patterns in their music can improve it.
Where is Waldo? A project for signals and systems by Koen, Luc and Remke. This is Waldo. He likes to hide himself in plain sight. For instance, can you spot him in this picture? You have 1 second. You probably could not find him on time, right? Well, luckily we came up with an ingenious solution to this problem. We are going to use the Fourier transform to find him. This video will tell you how you managed to do that. Oh, and by the way, Waldo was up here. The code works in 4 distinct phases. These phases are the image, the monotone, the Fourier transform, and the filtered image. The image is required because the code needs to have something to examine. The program is told that there is a picture in a folder somewhere which it can use in the further steps. Because Waldo's shirt is always red and white striped, it can be taken advantage of. This is done by removing all the other colors from the image and grayscaling the remaining image. Waldo's striped shirt has a certain distance between the stripes. This means that a Fourier transfer can be applied to filter that specific frequency. An inverse Fourier transfer is also applied to return a normal image again. This inverse Fourier transfer image is transformed into this filtered image, which shows the potential places where Waldo could be. As can be seen, Waldo is not clearly found yet. This is due to the fact that the frequency of the stripes of Waldo's shirt can be found in multiple places on the image. In the final step, the filtered image is scanned and a spot with the highest probability of being Waldo is selected. This location is translated to the original image where a light circle is placed on top of Waldo. Here the code that is written can be seen. The most important part for this course is of course the Fourier part, which is this part right here. This part results in this picture, but also very important for our actual result is this part, which translates the Fourier results into the result of a filtered image, this one. Here the flowchart of the principle on which code functions can be seen. A convolution of a sine and a picture and a convolution of a cosine and a picture has to be taken. Since doing this for every pixel is very intensive, it is smart to do this with a Fourier transform. A convolution between two images is the same as the product of the Fourier transforms. Inversing the product back to the normal domain gives rise to the convolution. Combining the sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1 as a filter achieves the desired effect of showing where Waldo is. The SF value in the code is basically the frequency of the image that we are searching for. In these pictures here you can see the influence of the SF value on the filtered image. After some experimentation we found that the SF value of 0.2 reflects the frequency of Waldo's shirt in most images. If the ratio of the stripes and the total resolution is vastly different, however, a different SF value has to be chosen. Here you can see that the code works for multiple images. It is a lot faster than searching for them manually, and with all the time that we saved by not having to search for them manually, we can study for the Signals and System course.
There must be something wrong with the suspension. I get really nauseous from speed bumps. Shouldn't we take the car apart to check if something's wrong?
Well, because of our course Signals and Systems, we don't have any time to take the car apart.
What if we can analyze it without taking it apart and see if something's wrong?
Oh, I know something. Maybe we can measure the behavior of the car and analyze that. What if we put an accelerometer on the body of the car? Then we can measure the vibrations and analyze that data.
If we then apply the fast Fourier transform, we can calculate the eigenfrequency.
Exactly. By fitting an accelerometer on the body of the car close to every wheel, we get the data shown in this Excel sheet. Here you can see the vehicle speed in kilometers per hour, the front left acceleration, front right, rear left and rear right spring acceleration. These values are in meter per square second. The test is carried out with an Iveco daily, fitted with a water tank in the back. The water tank is of no further use for this experiment beside the additional weight. Let's show you what this looks like in real life.
Now let's show the script that helps us analyze the data. Firstly, we need to load the data and assign it to variables. To do this, we use so-called structs. These help us to keep the code clean and prevents us from using any unnecessary space writing down all the variables. The structs can be seen over here. After we have assigned all the data, we want to plot it to get a general idea what the behavior looks like. The data we want to visualize is the acceleration, velocity and the displacement of the body close to each wheel during the bump test. We get these values by integrating the measured acceleration. The integration part can be seen over here. This plot shows all the desired data. At the top we have the acceleration, the second one is the speed, and the third one the displacement of the body at each wheel. You can see that first the front tires hit the bump, and after that the rear tires hit the bump. At the bottom we also have a graph to visualize the speed of the vehicle during the bump test. After we have this general idea of the behavior, we can actually apply the discrete Fourier transform on the displacement. We do that in this part. This lets us actually analyze the eigenfrequency of the suspension. This figure shows us all the eigenfrequencies. At the top we have a plot with all the wheels together. In the bottom left we only have the front wheels. Here we can see that the front axle has an eigenfrequency of about 1.2 Hz. At the bottom right we only have the rear wheels. Here we can see that the rear axle has an eigenfrequency of about 1.6 Hz. Eigenfrequencies of 4 to 8 Hz are considered to be uncomfortable. Would it be the case that our eigenfrequencies were within this range, further research could be carried out with this script. The spring and damper constant, for example, could be calculated, which can be used to tweak the suspension in such a way that the car is actually comfortable.
Wow, I wonder which animal this could be. It doesn't sound like a penguin. Nor does it sound like a fox. Perhaps a flamingo? If only there was a MATLAB script written by 2 students that could identify an animal by using the Fourier transform to distinguish the frequencies of the animal and compare them to known data to find the closest match. Oh wait. There is. Before we run the program, let's first quickly go over the code. First, the program takes a sample of the audio file that is recorded from the unknown animal. After that, it computes the Fourier transform of the data. Then it locates the frequency with the highest absolute value of the discrete Fourier transform to compare it to the data in the database of the animals that was created up front. Based on the peak values, the script finds the closest match between the tested file and the known data to give the identified result in the form of a picture and the name of the animal. But now let's go back to our animal by checking if it will be recognized by the script. Oh, it is a dolphin. Who could have expected it? This was a really distinguishable animal, so the program did not have problem with finding it. However, the program is way more powerful than that, since it can even distinguish between different kinds of the same animal. Currently the library has data for 4 different animals. But this can always be expanded in the future.
As you have heard and seen in the video, an annoying ticking sound can be heard when pressing the keys on the piano. Viewers of the video want to have this ticking removed. How this is done is explained in this video. At the top of the code, data is imported. This data consists of the recording of the piano and a text file with frequencies of the sounds the piano makes. Lines 13 and 14 compute the fast Fourier transform of the recording and store it as an original and edible part. Next, the frequency per sample is computed. which can later be used to filter out sounds that do not correspond to any of the keys on the piano. For further coding, a ratio between the frequency and the sample is computed. Line 21 and 22 cancel out all frequencies with a power smaller than 3 and bigger than 100,000. Lines 27 until 50 are used to filter out non-piano frequencies. The first step is to make a list of zeros called multiplication, with the same length as the number of samples in recording, line 27. For samples with a frequency corresponding to a key on the piano, the multiplication is set to 1. A left and a right border is set to allow all samples with the same frequency to be kept. The second part of the filtering is to set frequencies corresponding to the ticking sound to 0. This is done the same way as before with the keys of the piano, except now the value in the multiplication list are set to 0. Finally, very low and high values are set to 0. To actually filter out the frequencies, the multiplication list is multiplied with the Fourier transform, which removes all samples that are multiplied by 0. The frequencies that must be kept are multiplied by 1. This way the filtered Fourier transform is obtained. In lines 52 until 61, the original and filtered Fourier transform are plotted, including titles and labels on the X and Y axis. Lines 63 up to 71 play the filtered and original audio, as well as saving the filtered audio to an MP4 file named filtered_audio. Running the code gives the output of the code, which consists of two graphs, the original and the filtered audio, and a MP4 file with the filtered audio. The graphs show the filtered and the unfiltered Fourier transform of the original signal, with the main difference between the removal of noise between peaks, which are the keys of the piano. The filtered audio can now be heard.
Finally, go into the already some concepts that we'll need about signals first and then systems. Okay, those are my 4 goals. That's annoying. How can I improve this? How can I not have this echo?
Well, Duarte, we exactly know how to improve this. The discrete Fourier transform, we can remove all annoying beeps. Look.
Finally, go into the already some concepts that we'll need about signals first and then systems. Okay, those are my 4 goals. That's annoying. How can I improve this? How can I not have this echo?
That's a lot better, right? Now we show how we did it.
First we clear all variables for a fresh start. Next we define the limits for the graphs, which allow us to examine closely certain parts of the frequency domain. Then we use these variables to suppress sound or enable it if you wish to. Next we read in the signal using audio read. We determine its size and we select only one of the stereo channels. Then we play the sound, if the sound 0 variable is set to 1, of course. Next we do the fast Fourier transformation of the signal and plot it. It's shown here on the right, and we see some very large spikes in it, and those are caused by the beeping noise, and we want to filter these out. For that we use a filter. That filter is already shown over here, and we define a number of cutoff frequencies where the filter switches from high to low, and we use these lines of code to convert the frequencies to a specific index in the frequency domain. and we use these bar variables for convenience, which will allow us to easily define the filter matrix. And we also use these balance factors to define the magnitude of the filter, shown here. So this filter part is a bit higher than here, and that will allow us to balance the sound a bit more. We define the filter, we plot it, and we convolute the filter with the unedited sound to get the edited sound. That's shown over here. All the big spikes have been removed, and with that, the beeping noise.
In this video I will explain what we did for the project of the core signals and systems. The challenge of the project was to think of and implement an application of signals and systems to illustrate the usefulness of discrete Fourier transform. We came up with an implementation of the Fourier transform that allows us to filter out unwanted background noise from video recordings. Our intended use is to filter out noise from people protesting during health public announcements. As during the pandemic, the Prime Minister Rutte was rudely interrupted during his speech.
Deze manier tot u richten. Met opnieuw een ingrijpende boodschap.
In those speeches he is sharing important information, so it is important that his message is clear and does not get interrupted by background noise. To achieve this, we did the following. First, we created a Fourier transform of the speech where a lot of background noise can be heard from people protesting against the corona restrictions. We also made a Fourier transform of an isolated part of the recording where only background noise could be heard. We looked into what the main frequencies were in the background noise and then filtered those frequencies out of the original recording. Here the code used to filter the video recording is shown. As can be seen, a band filter is used to filter out unwanted frequencies. This image shows the Fourier transform of the isolated background noise. As can be seen, a lot of large spikes occur after 500 Hz. Therefore, we used a band filter with an upper limit of 500 Hz. Here, the result of filtering the background noise can be seen. A lot of the large spikes are gone, so the filter worked. We applied the same filter to the original recording as can be seen in the code. The Fourier transform before filtering still has some peaks after 500 Hz. Those are caused by the background noise. As can be seen from the Fourier transform after filtering, there are no significant peaks after 500 Hz. Now to see if it all worked, the result of filtering the speech of Mark Rutte will be shown.
Thank you. Goedenavond. Toen ik bijna 9 maanden geleden voor het eerst een televisietoespraak hield over corona, hoopte ik heel erg dat het ook voor het laatst zou zijn. En daar leek het ook lang op. Maar helaas moet ik mij vandaag opnieuw op deze manier tot u richten. Met opnieuw een ingrijpende boodschap. Minder dan een week geleden zei ik in de persconferentie nog dat we op een tweesprong stonden. Ik zei toen dat strengere maatregelen denkbaar waren als de besmettingscijfers verder zouden stijgen. En dat is helaas precies wat we sindsdien in sneltreinvaart zien gebeuren. Het coronavirus grijpt nog sneller om zich heen dan waar we vorige week mee rekenden. En daarom gaat Nederland voor een periode van in ieder geval 5 weken in lockdown. Goedenavond. Toen ik bijna 9 maanden geleden voor het eerst een televisietoespraak hield over corona, hoopte ik heel erg dat het ook voor het laatst zou zijn. En daar leek het ook lang op. Maar helaas moet ik mij vandaag opnieuw op deze manier tot u richten. Met opnieuw een ingrijpende boodschap. Minder dan een week geleden zei ik in de persconferentie nog dat we op een tweesprong stonden. Ik zei toen dat strengere maatregelen denkbaar waren als de besmettingscijfers verder zouden stijgen. En dat is helaas precies wat we sindsdien in sneltreinvaart zien gebeuren. Het coronavirus grijpt nog sneller om zich heen dan waar we vorige week mee rekenden. En daarom gaat Nederland voor een periode van in ieder geval 5 weken in lockdown.